lead block. That is not how we will reference the Kansas City Chiefs today. Of course, that title goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, but it does make the Chiefs training camp a little more fascinating. They are not the defending champs. Our own Kimmy Checks and Steve Smith Sr. caught up with Patrick Mahomes yesterday as the Chiefs QB sounds ready to get back to work.
I thought we did a lot of great things. It was cool. We got the referees out here. We got the pads on. It felt the most real that we've been since the Super Bowl, and you saw guys going hard. They're practicing hard. We had some mistakes. You saw guys learn from that, and of course, Coach Reed ordered the hottest day that we could have for the first day of pads. He does that every year. It seems like
every year. What an intro for you guys on pads day one.
With first day in pads, the heat. You got the refs out here. What would you give today's grade on the practice?
Yeah, I would say it was about a B, B maybe B plus. There was procedural things that we did. The referees got us on, and there were some refs that we made mistakes offensively. But I loved how the guys competed, and I think that's something that when you put these pads on and you're here, it's not about making mistakes. You learn from those mistakes. It's how you're going to respond. And I thought the guys responded well, and we got it cleaned up as practice went on. But there's definitely room to improve, and that's why we're here.
Now, there's some rotations and some competitions on the O-line. Your protection is not all about talent. It's also about your timing and your trust. How do you feel you're doing with those guys getting these live reps? How long do you think it'll take until, they kind of adapt to your tempo and your speed and cadence?
I think they've done a great job so far. Competition breeds excellence, and I think Coach Reed always preached that, is that you got to go out there and compete. And obviously today was first day of pads, so you get a real feel. But we have a good defensive line. We had a lot of blitzes from Spags. Yeah. So these guys are going to get tested. Coach Reed's going to throw them into the fire. And we'll see who comes out the best man. And so I'm just excited for the rest of camp as we build that chemistry and get ourselves ready to go for the season.
The signature bounce in Patrick Mahomes' walk looked very serious. His tone and his answers was kind of intense. This is all for late July at this point. When you look at what Patrick Mahomes had to say here, Isaiah, what do you make of it?
In the words of Ricky Bobby, I like the way he's talking. He can talk to whatever he wants to. He's a winner. This dude's 17-3 in the postseason. This dude is 3-1 in the Super Bowl. But the thing is that one is really hanging on his shoulder right now, and he doesn't like the way that feels. They got scraped up by the Philadelphia Eagles last year, and everybody knows that is going to be his driving force. They were not the offense that they wanted to be last year. That is going to be his driving force. So when you hear Patrick Mahomes talking about how intense he is, how serious practice is, and how they have a B or a B plus, those are the things that are residing in his head. The excellence is the standard. I know Kyle was in Pittsburgh, and Coach Tomlin said the standard is a standard, but I'm sure that Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs have a standard, and what they were last year, they didn't finish the job. Now he's focused again.
I like that, Isaiah. And, for the fans at home, having refs at training camp, that isn't a new thing. Usually when the pads come on the first day, there are refs there to help regulate the practice and make sure that it's more organized. Now, the thing that does stand out to me, and I've never heard this said before other than when I had to go to training camp, is when Patrick Mahomes brought up Andy Reid picking the hottest day. Now, that does stand out to me because Sean Payton would do the same thing to us in New Orleans, where he would pick the hottest day to go pads, would do 2-minute drill, we'll go live. And so there's a precedence that Andy Reid, I think, is setting early in this training camp to tell him, man, we're back to business. I think we cruised for the past few years because we've been used to winning so much that let's harden our shell a little bit. And so I like the precedence that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes has kind of set for this team leading into this year.
See, I just thought the refs were there so they could start holding the Chiefs' hand even earlier this year. Just kidding, guys. Just a little icebreaker at the top. Here's what I think about the Chiefs and what I've seen from Mahomes. This is the most interesting season from Mahomes and the Chiefs in years, potentially even ever, because there's so much change. The last time we saw Patrick Mahomes play a game, he got shellacked in the Super Bowl and said, I didn't play to my standard. He threw an interception for the first time in almost 300 throws. Patrick Mahomes threw his first career playoff pick six. In 21 playoff games, he had never done that, and the Chiefs were broken in that game. Now they show up, and Patrick Mahomes' number one wingman is going to be 36 years old. His number one wide receiver is facing a suspension. Arguably his best lineman is gone. And I think some of the invincibility is gone. I think a little bit of the aura is gone. And we know that the three-peat is gone. There's no three-peat. There's no Chiefs-peat. That's all gone. What's not gone, though, is that the dynasty. They are still in the middle of a dynasty, guys. Joe Montana didn't win 3 in a row. Terry Bradshaw didn't. Tom Brady, Troy Aikman. It's still the Chiefs. They lost the Super Bowl. They were still in the Super Bowl. And here's the measure of the Chiefs right now. All those things I said about this guy's gone and this guy's old and this guy this. The Chiefs open Chargers-Eagles. Chargers-Eagles. It's not great. Would anybody have the gall to say, I think the Chiefs are going to be 0-2 to start the season? Hell no. And that's playing against the Super Bowl champ and a continually ascending Chargers team coached by Jim Harbaugh. I would never say that about them, despite all that I still listed. They're still the Chiefs. They are still in the middle of a dynasty. Just a lot has felt like it's changed outside of that since that Super Bowl, and it's the most interesting season I can remember from them in years.
Stacey Dales, let's bring you into the conversation. You are at Lions training camp this morning. I see players already arriving, walking behind you, Stacey. I have to ask first and foremost, how hot is it there? Classic training camp question.
Well, James, I've been melting for 3 days here in the Midwest and Eastern time zones. So, kind of over the humidity, but we're actually under a heat advisory here at Allen Park as we get ready for camp. The good news is they practice early. That's a Dan Campbell standard. And Amon-Ra, by the way, players walking behind me, it's just Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Sure. Classic. Well, let's talk Dan Campbell since he had that decision. He may have picked the hottest day like Andy Reid, but at least he shifts it up a little bit. Talking about Aiden Hutchinson, Coach always gives off great vibes and great takes on one of his star defensive players. What's this showing up like in Detroit? How does this track for the Lions through the start of training camp?
Yeah, Jamie, and those of you on the set, I want to put this in perspective. We're not necessarily talking about comeback player of the year at this point with Aiden Hutchinson. We're talking about defensive player of the year. That's how good they think he can be coming into this season. He took the took the gloves off back in OTAs when he got bumped around a little bit. Obviously, there are no pads, speaking of pads, but you get your foot stepped on here and there, and he was ready to go. He literally has attacked this rehab after that horrific leg injury from a season ago. And just to further put this in perspective, he played 5 games, right? A season ago, Aiden Hutchinson, as he gets ready to go into his 4th season. They had the bye in week 5. They go into week 6. He suffers the injury. He had 7.5 sacks through those 5 games, 7 tackles for loss, and 17 quarterback hits. He was on pace for somewhere like, let's put a guess on it, 15, 16 sacks. And that was coming off his previous season of 11.5 sacks. He looks fantastic, and he is really the cornerstone of this defense.
Stacey, big question. I know there's a lot of heat, and I saw a clip that Lions were going live, like they were tackling earlier in the week. What are the sights and sounds as far as the physicality of that camp? Because we know Dan Quinn likes to go live a lot during his camp.
Yes, Coach Campbell loves to, and at the same time, you got to be super smart about it because that's kind of the culture that he is. It's a fantastic question. It's the culture he's established here in Detroit. They got to pull these guys back a bit until they put the pads on. And they didn't actually practice yesterday, but things have gotten chippy. That's what the players want. That's the mindset of these offensive and defensive coordinators. And it's something certainly Dan Campbell doesn't want to tailor back. Got to be careful, though, guys. We got a long stretch here in training camp, and they play a game in, 4 days? The Hall of Fame game is coming up, and so they got to be careful about what they're doing out here.
Stacey, it's great to see you there, and I know we're going to snap our fingers, and you're going to be standing in the dark in the stadium on Thanksgiving in front of the marching band as they warm up, talking about the Lions like you are every single year, like a boss. I bring that up because I want to know this, Stacey. You've covered this team for a long time, the pre-Campbell, the dark years, all of that, and now this great ascension. What is different this year that you're picking up in 2025? We've been through the introductory period with Campbell. They've won. What are you seeing out there that's different that you haven't seen before?
Well, it's a really interesting question that you raise, Kyle, because this thing has become a well-oiled machine with Dan Campbell. Yeah. And people are talking habitually about the coordinator changes, right? You lose Ben Johnson, and all of a sudden Johnny Morton steps in. You lose Aaron Glenn, and all of a sudden Kelvin Shepard steps in. 0 drop-off. Same personnel in many respects, and obviously they've added some pieces, but they feel really good about the continuity, and they feel really good about how fine-tuned this thing is. I was talking to somebody in the league who was here at the start of camp, and when you look at some new regimes around the NFL, and you consider this regime, Dan has this thing marching in a really strong, and very directed, very intentional sort of flow. And so that's what the players pick up on. Like, you talk to any of these veterans, Amon-Ra St. Brown just walked behind us. They feel really good about this offense. There's been a lot said about Johnny Morton taking over with Jared Goff. Here's what's really important, and this is something a lot of people haven't talked about, but as I've spoken to folks here with the Lions, he was here in 2022. He was a senior offensive assistant, and that was the same year that the great offensive mind, Ben Johnson, took over, who's now the head coach with the Chicago Bears. And Johnny Morton was instrumental in helping to build that offensive game plan and that sort of scheme that Jared Goff became so good in. So there's going to be a lot of carryover, obviously, from Ben Johnson's offense. Johnny Morton's going to put his stamp on it, but he's been here and he knows these guys, and he and Jared Goff have a really good relationship.
Stacey, everything I'm hearing about the Lions and really about the web that is now weaving throughout the NFC North, I am just glad that you are going to be there to hold our hand through all of this, because if it is a massive game in the NFC North, Stacey Dales is going to be all over it. Stacey, stay cool.
No doubt.
Try to stay dry. It's a great sleeveless polo. Thanks again to Tommy Bahama. I'm going to fight about a lot of things, but if you reheat an egg, then I'm going to throw hands. Why is Kyle Brandt walking through the streets of Western Pennsylvania with a to-go box? And Kyle, if you say that's breakfast, I'm going to have to fight you from 3,000 miles away.
Pay no attention to the tourist walking through the plains of Western Pennsylvania in the rain on the side of the road with a to-go box from breakfast. Jamie, you know what's in that box?
Tell me.
Scrapple. I had the Scrapple was so good that I took it with me to go. I had just been at this beautiful, charming American diner in which the tone was set in Western Pennsylvania. When the lady comes and takes your drink orders, I say, "Can I have some coffee?" And like an idiot, I said, "Do you have almond milk?" And she's like, "No, honey, we don't." I was like, "That's right, Donna. It's not that type of place. No almond milk. Just cow milk." And then we walked home, my son and I, in the rain, and I had to go by. It was just like, welcome to Latrobe. But the other welcome I got was across the board from the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are not only incredibly professional and hospitable. There's a lot to talk about there now because it's Mike Tomlin's 19th training camp. But none of them have been like this. Everybody has new faces. I don't know if anybody has new household famous faces like the Steelers do. Jalen Ramsey, DK Metcalf, Jonnu Smith, all below the fold because there is a new starting quarterback, and he has been in this league more than 2 decades. I got to sit with the oldest player in the National Football League, and here's a bit of myself and number 8 for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
21 seasons. CSI couldn't do it. Gunsmoke couldn't do it. This guy's been on the air as long as Grey's Anatomy. It is number 8 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Aaron Rodgers. What's up, dude?
That sounds kind of weird, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
Grey's Anatomy's still on, too?
Still on.
That's impressive.
How's life?
It's good.
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect getting here last Tuesday. Checking to the dorms, realizing I was sharing a bathroom and a shower. But, man, I missed it. I really did.
Jim Carrey had this quote when he was thinking about retiring. And Jim Carrey said, "I've done enough. I have enough. I am enough." As a fan of yours, that was how I felt about you last year. 20 years, started all 17
I should
games.
retire,
I did.
didn't you? Yeah.
I was. I'm ready. But you weren't ready.
You and Deshaun, yeah.
Deshaun too?
Yeah.
I didn't follow that. But I'm like, I've seen enough. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He's done everything. It wasn't enough for you, though. Why not?
I fell in love with this game when I was 6 years old, and I wanted to have that closure and give back to the game one more time the way that it's given to me. As I thought about my life, really everything special in my life is because of this game, and I want to give back to it one more time and have fun with it. And I just felt like this is what I was supposed to do.
To that point, I did a project recently at Good Morning Football where I looked at all of the players who got married in the offseason in this era. And across the board, overwhelmingly, the next football season they played were incredible. Like career highs across the board. And I don't think it's a coincidence, including guys you know like Devontae. You showed up and said you got married in the offseason. How does it change how you feel as a man, and how might it affect your play?
How much time do you have?
Whatever you want, buddy. It's you.
You know, when you meet the right one and you're with the right one, your whole world changes in a second. And to have that person that unconditionally loves you behind the scenes, there's no better feeling in the world. When you have that stability and that rock behind you at the house, you feel like you can do anything.
I'm always very amused, Aaron, by your observations of the media. Okay? Everybody's going to get a little squirrely now. Someone had a nuclear take on you. Terry Bradshaw, number 12 from the Steelers. Terry Bradshaw says, Rodgers to the Steelers. I wrote it down because I want to get it right. It's a joke. Stay in California, chew on bark, and whisper to the gods.
Well, I whisper to the gods every single day.
Damn right.
I've known Terry for a long time, being a part of Fox. Terry's a legend. He's an absolute legend. He won 4 Super Bowls. He's had a legendary career in the media. But Terry, like a lot of people, doesn't know me. And so he's got an idea of what he thinks about me based on what I've done, the documentary, what I've said, Darkness Retreat, whatever the hell you want to talk about. I'd love to get to know Terry on a deeper level. And I feel like if he gave me a chance to get to know him, then we'd have a good friendship, because for me, I have nothing but the utmost amount of respect and deference for what the greats have done, because they laid the foundation for us to be able to play in this great game, to be paid like kings, and to carry on the tradition of excellence that guys like the Bradshaws of the world in the 70s, because of how they played and how they carried themselves, they were able to have this opportunity to still play this great game, to get paid really well, to set ourselves up for our future. So I'd love to get to know Terry on a deeper level if he's open to it, and maybe we can go chew some bark or whatever the hell he's talking about together.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I'll chew some bark any day, too. Sign me up for that. It was a first-class, top-shelf response from Rodgers to the Bradshaw line. And, I look at Rodgers right now, and that was about half of what we talked about. If you want the whole thing, it's on my social. I think of what Mike Tomlin likes to say, and one of those Tomlinisms is, we want volunteers, not hostages. In other words, people who want to be there. Rodgers has absolutely no need to be there whatsoever. He doesn't need to make money. He doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't need to get in the Hall of Fame. None of that. He's playing his 21st season because he really likes Tomlin and he wants to keep playing ball. That is the very definition of volunteers, not hostages. And Rodgers' aura, vibes, whatever you want to call it, was really great. It was cool to soak up.
Kyle, it was so well done. You could have, as many people will, said, what's year 21 feel like? Or so you got married, what's the response? And you didn't have to quote the actual Terry Bradshaw take to the man's face. It took some guts to do that. Well done. But you're right. We didn't get to see the entire thing. I would just like a brief recap from you on the Nobu experience that the Steelers got with their new guy, Rodgers. Because we heard a couple years back that the Jets, they flew in and they were having the Malibu experience. Yeah. Rodgers is like, no, come to Nobu. I'm going to show you around Malibu the way I do it with some dolphins, too.
Yeah, so Rodgers hosted the wide receivers, several of them, and he tells this amazing story that at least one of the wide receivers had never seen the ocean, any ocean, the Pacific Ocean. And so they're sitting there at Nobu. Imagine you've never seen the ocean. You're overlooking the Pacific at this super fancy sushi place. And as they're watching out there and eating, dolphins start swimming by and cascading through the water. And this wide receiver suggested or even accused Rodgers of arranging the dolphins to do that, somehow hiring or wrangling them. Did you set this up? And he's like, I did not set up the dolphins, dude. But that's the kind of like bonding experience they had. And that just says it all. Imagine you're 41 years old and you live in Malibu and here's your wide receiver, 23 or something. Did you set up the dolphins? No, dude, I did not. It's a great little chance.
I would have played into that if I was impressed. That's dope. Man, first of all, Kyle, great interview with Aaron Rodgers. But for those that didn't get the opportunity to tune in, that wasn't the only great interview that you had. You also had the opportunity to sit down with the man himself, Mr. Mike Tomlin, who has no losing seasons during his time there. What was that experience like, learning from Mike Tomlin and hearing all about the Mike Tomlin-sisms?
Well, if you're sitting at home and you're a fan, or you're someone in media like me who has never sat with Mike Tomlin, you're obviously aware of him, the reputation, the aura, all that. I can only tell you that the second he sits down, there is an electricity. And I was really, really taken aback by his presence, by his warmth, which doesn't get as credited. I mean, It was the easiest interview I've ever done, because he just sits there. Every single thing he says is compelling. Every single thing is intense. And, listen, I said to him, Coach, nobody can say your name in media without someone immediately saying, he's never had a losing season. This is this fact that just follows you around. I think your supporters use it. In a weird way, I think your detractors use it. It means a lot of different things to different people. What does it mean to you? And he's like, not much. Really not much. A lot of that is a different past. We don't use a cumulative approach here at the Pittsburgh Steelers. And let's be honest, some of the players I'm coaching right now, they were in car seats when that streak started. So I don't go around puffing my chest out about that. It was another incredible answer. He knows what time it is. He knows the Steelers are in a tough time right now. They haven't won a playoff game in a long time. He knows, and he looks around the field at those players that they brought in that violate the Steeler way of plug and play. That's unusual, too. Minkah Fitzpatrick is just gone. Jalen Ramsey is just there. And I think it's because they understand what time it is, and it's not working the way they need it to, and they need to make some changes. Tomlin was electric. Even someone who's done this a long time like me and has sat with a lot of coaches and a lot of players, different. And I see why he gets the love he gets there. He deserves it.
Yeah, KB, you talked about people that have come and gone and plug and play and all of that. One guy that is loved in the Brant house that also plays for the Steelers is TJ Watt. Tell us a little bit about him and how that defense is looking, because there's been some highlights coming out of camp where they're looking pretty good early on.
Well, I mean, TJ is like the happiest guy in camp, as you can imagine. This guy is zooming around on an e-bike. He's saying hi to everybody. He's signing autographs. He just got the huge contract. And he's arguably one of the top 5 best players in the entire NFL. But I have to make this personal. I have a son who's going into 6th grade, and my son Calvin's hero is TJ Watt. It's not just his favorite football player. He's his favorite athlete, his favorite public figure. Calvin dresses up like TJ Watt for Halloween. Run the picture. This is my son who dresses up as TJ Watt. I think we have the picture. There, I mean, that's him in his bedroom. Like, his whole room is TJ Watt, the towels. And then on Halloween, he's got the arm sleeve. He's got the pants, got everything. And then show the final picture. It makes me tear up. Like, this is an incredible culmination for me that he gets to meet his hero. And I think people at home should know. You see these guys as athletes, and you see all this money they make. When I have an exchange like I did with TJ Watt, he was so kind and so generous and so cool and so well beyond the call of duty. My son was trembling when he walked away from him. He was walking on air, and there is still a time in 2025 when little kids meet their heroes and they live up to all their expectations. I was so taken aback and so thankful to TJ, to everybody with the Steelers for making that moment for me happen. We were there to work, but an 11-year-old kid had his absolute life made by meeting his hero, and I'm so thankful for it.
Sherry Burris is joining us on the show now, back after a couple months having a baby in March. Sherry, we missed you. Your epic return to the network was part of Back Together Weekend. Where did you go? Who did you see? And how was it leaving the baby for the first time?
It's really good to see you guys. I cried only a couple times yesterday leaving the baby for the first time. So this is day one back, like part B, right?
Yes.
Got to go to San Francisco 49ers yesterday. Incredible to be back for Back Together Weekend. It's a little brisk in the Bay Area, and it was really cool to start the season at the 49ers because, guys, the Super Bowl is at Levi Stadium. 7 months more football, then we'll figure out who's playing in that game. But starting here, George Kittle, he has been a key piece of this offense, signed a contract extension in the offseason. He said it is great to get that done. For the first time in his career, he remembers there's no quarterback battle. Brock Purdy securing that position, looking good, also signing a contract extension. A lot of questions, though, about the wide receivers, but I had a really great conversation with the 49ers tight end. Take a listen.
It was one of my first years without quarterback controversy of my entire career, which is really exciting. Good job, Kyle and John, in the front office. So that's been really fun. And just like when you get all the contracts and stuff done before OTAs or during OTAs, then like that whole rest of the offseason, you can just focus on football.
The Super Bowl is going to be hosted
It's
right here.
Right there.
Right there.
That's my home office.
What is it going to take for you guys to be playing that game early February here in your own backyard?
Ooh, great question. Let's see, in my personal opinion, I think we still have a fantastic offense. I know we lost, two key pieces of our offense. Debo, hard to replace Debo, one of my favorite teammates. Just an absolute problem, the matchup problem, all the things we did with him in the backfield and moving him around and stuff. So that's hard to replace. And then we lost Aaron Banks to the Packers. So happy for him to go out there and get paid, much deserved. I think the guys that, have replaced those two players are both very solid players, and we have like guys that can take over and take some of those reps. But I also think it'll be a really good challenge for Coach Shanahan to kind of change our offense up a little bit, because you can't rely on Debo to play running back and the slot stuff. So I think it'll be good for our entire offense. And then on defense, for us to win a lot of games, we have a lot of young guys. And a lot of young guys need to step up. A lot of young guys need to, play at a high level early. And so hopefully this training camp will prepare them to do that.
Fun one for you. I saw also online you took up the camera. You were behind the scenes a little.
Yep.
Excellent work.
I tried my best.
Yeah.
I'll do better.
So I can't switch positions with you. I can't play football. But
That's
if
tough.
you were in my shoes,
Yes.
you're on the front of the camera now. What questions are you asking about this 49ers team this season?
I would ask, hey, Fred Warner, what are your thoughts on the defense? Who do you think specifically needs to step up? And what are your favorite competition battles going on through training camp? Who are you going to have your eyes on? And then on offense, what offensive players, what offensive linemen are you really watching that are going to fill those holes? And do you have a 6 guy? Do you have a swing tackle? Do you have guys that can step up if somebody goes down?
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to see those questions answered. George, thanks for the time.
I'm not going to answer, but somebody will.
Broadcast boot camp. When is that? We need to get George Kittle in here. I was so nervous, though, actually, for that. Kittle really can kind of be like, random, kind of keeps you on your toes. So we appreciate the time with George. There was no question about meeting Christian McCaffrey, though. It was really cool. He just welcomed a daughter, as we know, him and his wife, Olivia. This is the first time I got to meet McCaffrey, and I gave him a little gift on behalf of NFL Network, GMFB. You guys were so welcoming and loving, giving us a GMF baby onesie. So we made sure Colette McCaffrey had one also. Made sure to ask, Mom is doing well. So Olivia, hope you're taking care of yourself, girl. Colette, welcome to the world. Happy birthday. I'm sure he is also not getting any sleep with a newborn at home. But as you guys know, that's just kind of par for the course, as we all have kids, Jenny.
Yeah, absolutely. Sherry, good job. Way to get the branding out there on the babies. It's
Company
not just
girl.
us. It's the NFL players' babies. Well done, Sherry. Awesome to have you back. The Dallas Cowboys hope that CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens team up to be one of the premier wide receiver tandems in the league this upcoming season. Colleen Wolfe and Isaiah Stanback spoke with CeeDee Lamb, who is thrilled to be working with his new teammate, not only just on handshakes.
Love looking down the sideline and seeing that guy over there. And then obviously when we get one-on-one coverage, we both get antsy. So it's wherever the ball goes up, we know we got to handle our business and do what we got to do as far as bringing it in. But we like our chances, obviously.
The impact of having that three-headed monster at receiver that can receive the ball now, what does that do to defenses, and what does that do to you in terms of your matchups?
Chiefs to minus. Obviously, if they're going to have their times where they shadow or they cloud one another, one receiver, one target, but then obviously that's when the other guy has to step up, and it's more mandatory than not. And we all understand that situation. As soon as we understand that we got the one-on-one coverage, we know we got to win. And, I mean, what better is it than to have 3 ones and 3 guys that can go get it and create space.
Gosh, CeeDee Lamb looks primed and prepped for this upcoming season. Isaiah, you were at camp. You are around the Cowboys. You're in the building all the time. How is this team different?
I know it's going to sound bad, but it's the culture and it's the energy. And we had an opportunity to talk to Coach
Why does that sound bad?
Because people don't want to hear that, right? Most fans are like, oh, yeah, what is culture? Why is that so important? Listen. Culture means everything, and we get into that with the interview with CeeDee Lamb if you guys want to go check that out on the .com. But these guys they're bubbly. They're excited. And even though they're professional athletes, there's this connotation that once you're a professional athlete, everything should be so serious. It should be all ball. That's not the case, man. This is a game that you love to play. We heard Aaron Rodgers say since he was a little kid, everybody loves the game. You want to have that sensation back, and that's exactly what Coach Schottenheimer has brought back to the Dallas Cowboys. He's taken a lot of his lessons from Pete Carroll. So when you start thinking about the energy that Pete Carroll had in Seattle and now he's bringing to Las Vegas, that's exactly what they're doing. You see it right here. Kyer Elam goes out there and gets an interception, and he literally grabs a kid out the crowd and creates a core memory. Yes, creates a core memory for that kid. I'm sure the kid got given back at some point in time, but the thing is, it's fun. And these guys are competing. Everything is revolving around competition, revolving around energy. Coaches are jumping up and down, and we already know all the playmakers that they have. They got Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson. Now you have George Pickens, Micah Parsons, Trayvon Diggs. They have a lot of big names. Once these guys are all healthy, you add that with the culture and the coaching that they have, this team should be pretty solid.
Well, Zay, there's a big situation with Michael Parsons right now. Being at camp, do you feel like that has changed a little bit? Because from our perspective, seeing it on TV, it doesn't seem like it's taken away from any juice, any type of enthusiasm. But how did it feel for you being over there?
Yeah, it's business as usual. I mean, this is not new to Jerry Jones or the Dallas Cowboys. And if you listen to Jerry Jones speak, he talks about it. He said, this is not new for the league. This is not new for us. You know, he did the same thing with CeeDee Lamb. He did the same thing with Diggs. He did the same thing with everybody, right? That's what he does. Dak Prescott played the first game that day, right, of the opening season. He got his contract. So this is going to happen. Michael Parsons is one of the best in the league at what he does. There's never been a point in time in the history of Everdom for the Dallas Cowboys under Jerry Jones that he did not take care of his guys, right? So this deal is going to get done. They just signed Jake Ferguson to make sure that Dak Prescott has his weapons out there. So there's no bad tensions, but it's a talking point that you have to have.
Yeah, of course. And, he's going to be out there, man. We're certain givens for the Cowboys. CeeDee is going to be great. I think Dak's going to be great if he's healthy. Across the board, there's things you can count on. The running game is interesting to me, but more importantly, I think really, if you're looking for a difference, look at the biggest difference that they brought in. I think George Pickens is the most pivotal player right now on the Cowboys. That's going to be the difference between do they win in the playoffs or do they not. I'll be candid. I was, as you guys know, I was just at Steelers camp. I talked to somebody with the team, and I walked away with the belief that, let's just say, no one was shedding tears in the hallway of the Steelers facility when George Pickens was traded. I think there might have been a sigh of relief. I don't think it was a relationship that needed to continue for a lot of reasons, and I don't think those reasons had to do with football. Fine. We've seen it a million times. You get a fresh start, new atmosphere, new teammates. You light it up, and that's ancient history. Is that the case? Is this guy just plug and play? You step in, he's going to give you 85 catches as your number 2 receiver and light it up and be. I don't know. But I know that they need him because Dak and CeeDee is not enough, especially with the running game is unproven. So we take the givens away. I know that CeeDee Lamb is incredible. I don't know if George Pickens is incredible on the Cowboys, and if I don't know if George Pickens is reliable on the Cowboys, and if that sounds like I'm doubting him and being a skeptic, well, he's earned it. So we'll find out. The most pivotal Cowboys player is the newest Cowboys player.
You know, I'm not going to argue that point at all, Kyle. What I can tell you from my time at camp and what I've seen in person is George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb are the new Bash brothers. It's almost like CeeDee Lamb is now this new reinvigorated player because he has another guy out there. For the longest, it's been just CeeDee. They've been able to roll coverage. They've been able to put cloud coverage. Now you can't. Now you can't. Now you have to respect that, right? You have to make a decision. Do I want to play man-to-man on CeeDee and George Pickens, or do I want to double one of them? Either way, these guys are on stats to show that these guys are some of the best deep ball receivers. These guys are some of the best contested catchers, and both of them are dangerous, and they can light you up. This is something that CeeDee's been waiting on, and now he has his brother on the opposite side of the field.
It's a good point. I think a lot of people thought and want it to be a detraction, maybe from the friendship or the relationship, or to be a schism in the locker room. Until we see that, we essentially have to give the benefit of the doubt to the team and say, move forth as wide receiver 1, 2, and we'll see how this goes. The ears are perking up in Philadelphia currently as we talk about the Cowboys and whether or not they will maintain their rivalry and have it be heated as they always want it to be against the defending Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. So they won back in February, and while that was just 5 months ago, to Jalen Hurts and his teammates, the motto is reset, not repeat.
It's a bit contagious, and it's what you want everybody to have a similar mentality and a similar approach and what we're trying to accomplish ultimately, and you talk about, doing something after success where it depends on where your eyes are and what you hold on to, because I hold on to 22, and that's something, and many other shortcomings. So those are things that you use it as fuel and use it to drive you forward,
All right, he looks cool, and by he, of course, I mean Mike Garafolo. Colleen Wolfe, let's get her in here. Colleen, this is what you were put on this planet to do. You and I once did a show live from your favorite bar in Philadelphia. You are Miss Philly, wave to the crowd there at the NovaCare Center. I want to jump right into it because I want to get as much Eagles as possible. All right, of all the places we're going to start, Colleen, I'm going to throw you a curveball. Let's talk about Uncle Vic. Of course, Vic Fangio, the pride of Dunmore, Pennsylvania. What's the state of the nation now with this defensive wizard that won the Super Bowl for him last year?
Okay, well, I love that we're starting there because I talked with some members of the organization, and obviously they are so excited about the roster that they have, but the turnover on defense is one of the big changes from last year to this year. The offense pretty much remains set. But all of these changes and all these new faces, how will Vic Fangio's multiple looks kind of mesh with all of the new guys coming in because they're younger? But the sentiment was this team is so good, and the young guys last year clicked so fast and developed so quickly that now they're in a position where they've drafted their first 5 picks were on defense. They went linebacker, safety, defensive tackle, cornerback, linebacker. And if it goes any way like it did last year with the rookies, then they're in really, really good shape. Cooper DeJean right now, what they're doing with him, A.J. Brown calls him APC, which is All-Pro Coop. It's amazing what Vic Fangio is doing with him. He does not want him off the field ever. He is trying him on every single position. He's getting all sorts of reps. And then you have Jalix Hunt, who the second-year player is popping off the edge. All of the players are gushing over him. So they have a really good rotation, especially after losing guys like Brandon Graham. And so they lost over 4,000 snaps of production on the defense. So that is something to watch for sure during camp.
Maybe that's why the word should be reset. Colleen, awesome to see you this morning. One of the least dramatic conversations this offseason was the decision for the Eagles to extend Saquon Barkley. It happened in early March. It was like the first thing they did after cleaning up the confetti from the parade. Everyone wants to know what this running back can do on an encore performance status. So what do you make of this, Colleen? What can he accomplish?
Well, I think he wants to know that, too. I think that is the main question. How does Saquon follow up that performance? Over 2,000 yards rushing. He won the Super Bowl. This is his first year here. He's a local guy. I mean, he was so productive. And I think what is really interesting is that he talked about his performance in the Super Bowl. And you would think, oh, okay, cool, like he won a ring. Of course, he's going to be happy with it. He was not. He had a rough day. Those are his words. And he was talking about Steve Spagnuolo and that defense. What a great job that they did on him. And he kind of looked back on a game in his second year in the league, and it was against the Jets. And he gained only 1 yard in that game. And he said the Super Bowl was even more difficult than that game. So he's not happy with how he performed. And that's what you get when you have a team that has such talent and then such high expectations. They are so hungry still, and they're so professional, all business, even the rookies, top to bottom. This team looks so good.
Colleen, good to see my bodyguard again from a couple of days ago. Hopefully you stayed cool out there. Oxnard was a little cooler than where you're at. I'm pretty sure of that. But I wanted to know about Jalen Hurts in his 5th year. Jalen Hurts goes out there and wins the Super Bowl, takes his team out there. He has a little help by his boy Saquon in the defense. But what is going to be different, and what does he have to look forward to now in this coming season?
Well, with Jalen Hurts, now you have to think about new offensive coordinator, Kevin Petula. Now, he has been with the organization already. He's been with Sirianni for 4 years. On the sideline is where he's going to be calling the plays. He's a first-time play caller. This is a great situation for Jalen since he's within the organization. He knows these guys and these players and what they're good at, how they can excel. But I think one of the things that'll be a little different this year is he'll have more freedom within the offense. And what that looks like is something that I think everyone wants to know, how that will look. I think they're trying to push the tempo a little bit as well, work a little bit faster. That was something that they weren't happy with last year. But I think for the most part, we're going to see a lot of the same things because the roster largely has come over from last season. So especially on offense, obviously, this is a team that is stacked and loaded. They're ready to go. This is going to be their first day in shoulder pads, not pads. So that is a massive distinction. It is day 4 of camp for them. There's going to be Rita's Water Ice here. There's going to be the Philadelphia Pretzel Factory here. There's going to be all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, it's going to be great.
Colleen, I appreciate you trying to make sure that people understand that it's Rita's Water Ice, but I need you to put the appropriate pronunciation on the Rita's Water Ice when you hear it. If you're going back home, I want to give you permission to do that if you feel so compelled on national television.
Yeah, water ice. It's a fancy place.
It's a fancy place. How else do you say it? To a team's training camp, falling in love with them, and be like, total buy-in, and Harbaugh delivered. So I think I might have to put the Chargers in. I'm thinking about it.
I know. Listen, the West is tough. You're hearing all this great buzz from Pete Carroll's Raiders camp, and then the other two are kind of self-explanatory. I mean, it's really tough. But I get the buzz just watching that. I mean, you guys, Jim Harbaugh can be an unwieldy guy because he's eccentric. You guys did an amazing job with it. There was a comfort there. I got fired up talking about that running game. He said mush like 6 times. I feel like he's really settled in. And, last year was just the welcome back to the NFL the year for Jim Harbaugh. Get everything settled, and, of course, ahead of schedule, he makes the playoffs. I think this year is when it's really like, all right, now I got my guys. Now I'm going to reshape the running game. Now my message is set in. It's like it's year 2. It's different. He's like a rookie quarterback, except he's a coach. Now it's like in my vision. So I'll call it what it is, guys. It's week 1, they're playing the Chiefs. And, like, what do you got, Coach? I love mush, and I love talking about how great Herbert is, but you got to beat that other head coach with the mustache across the field. I love the interview. There's a lot to prove for the Chargers, but there's a lot of excitement, too.
So along those lines, Kyle, I had this question for him that kind of got lost in translation because I may have made reference to one of the greatest rivalries in college football, and I was trying to ingratiate myself with the Harbaugh by implying that it was Michigan-Ohio State. Then the Notre Dame guy on my other side has to be like, I don't know, I think Michigan-Notre Dame is pretty good, too. Whatever. We kind of lost track of what I was trying to accomplish, which was the question to Harbaugh I asked was, is there room in the NFL to breathe life into a rivalry that matches something in college football? And I'm specifically looking at the AFC West because I think there's breeding ground for that here. And he did make note that, every team is good, but the bullies on the block have been the Chiefs. And he referenced how many divisions they've won. So I know that there's awareness for it, but I know the Chargers want to be the reason why the bullies have to move down the block a little bit, Manti.
Yeah, I know. And what was great, and to answer your point, your point, KB, about it has to be different, is as a former Charger, it looked different. It felt different. It sounded different. What I mean by that is we didn't get to watch a lot of the practice because strategically Coach Harbaugh put his team at the furthest field possible from all the cameras, so we couldn't see it until we were done with all of our interviews. However, I did get to see the walkthrough, and Isaiah, you know this. A lot can be said about a walkthrough. Listen, when the huddle broke for the offense, a lot of times when the receivers go out there, you'll see them shuffling an inch or two to the right or left because of alignment. There was none of that, guys. Like, the huddle broke, receivers ran out there, a shift happened, a motion happened, the ball was snapped, it was crisp, it was clean. The only talking came from the players. There were no coaches saying, hey, let's rerun this. Matter of fact, there were no reruns. Like it was a 45-minute walkthrough, Kyle, and there was not one rerun. There was not one ball that was dropped. And when a receiver caught the ball, every defender converged on the ball carrier with the right leverage, the right shoulder. It was an attention to detail that I have not seen while I was a Charger. So the feeling and the look, talking about the look. We interviewed Joe Ortiz, the GM, and I said, I looked at the offensive line, Kyle. I was like, you obviously have a type, because that offensive line, it's a wall. Like, especially the right side of that line. Joe out 6'8", 320. Mekhi Becton 6'7". Like, these guys are just monsters. So there's definitely a type and the look is looking good for the LA Chargers.
Yeah, I know you guys were raving about how big the offensive line looks, and obviously they just took care of their man, Mr. Slater, by getting him the bag. $92 million guaranteed on the contract. But those guys have a type. Those guys have a style of play. Coach Harbaugh wants to control the ground game. And you guys start talking about how tough the AFC West is. Yeah, absolutely. Those guys are absolutely nasty out there. How can you combat that? You can combat that by having some monsters up front and making sure that you have the Slaters, that you have the Mekhi Bectons, that you have the Amari Hamptons to hand the ball off to. And if you can control the ground game and you can take the opportunities away from the Denver Broncos and away from the Kansas City Chiefs, then you increase your chances of winning ball games. But I'm looking forward to seeing those guys control it in the trenches. And when they can turn around and hand it off to that big bull back there, Hampton, oof. That's going to be nasty.
Kyle, you're going to love this. So we have Herbert sitting there, and he alludes to the fact that the offensive line room is a fun hang, and those guys are always spending time together. And I try to go the next level. Well, what do? What do you guys do when you get together? He really considered whether or not to actually tell the truth or just give some, I don't know, we just go to a steakhouse. No, he did tell us that they like to do escape rooms together, the quarterback and the offensive lineman. And Manti had a great question, which was, who's the guy that always kind of provides
the wrong way?
Go the wrong way.
There's always one guy in the group that says, let's do this. And,
It's
like,
always
that
bad idea. And first day, what we call our unofficial start of the 2025 season on GMFB, we got to have a defensive end from the Atlanta Falcons coming in. Morgan Fox, good morning to you, Morgan. Glad to see you seated in some air conditioning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's nice. It's so early, so it's not too hot, but it's definitely nice to be inside in some AC on an off day, not outside cooking in the heat.
Your story is so cool, Morgan, and you were just telling us in the commercial that 10 years, this is the start of your 10th season in the NFL, such an accomplishment, but it's your first with the Falcons. How's everything going? How's the veteran body holding up?
It's holding up great. I've been really fortunate to have good vets going into the league that told me from a young age, take care of your body. So I've done that for a really long time, so I feel great. Sometimes you can sneak a little like, I'm an old man in there to kind of get a little bit of a break, but just quick little vet moves. But other than that, I feel awesome. Being here has been great. The staff's awesome. Coach Raheem, Coach Nate, like all these guys have been great. The team's really open and welcoming. So it's been a blast.
Yeah, Morgan, you talk about you being a vet now. You said 10 years, man. That's a long time. There's a lot of lessons. And there's some lessons I think that you could teach some of your younger guys. I think there's some skirmishes that happened at camp that may have went a little bit too far. Tell us a little bit of how can we balance that dance between intensity and going and crossing that line?
Man, at the end of the day, it's camp. That's one of the hardest things is, it's hot, tensions are high. You start getting in past the first couple of days, everybody gets a little bit chippy. Somebody feels that somebody hit somebody too hard with or without pads, and then scuffles break out. At the end of the day, you especially in the front, you want that edge. You want guys that are willing to go to bat for each other, that are willing to kind of brawl a little bit. I grew up with vets in the league that you were things went a certain way, you were kind of expected to get into it, but there is a line. There is a and Coach Raheem is great about going over it, is at what point are we wasting time? At what point are we wasting reps when we get into it? But at the end of the day, the best thing you get out of it is who has whose backs in those situations. And, as much as it is a waste, does waste reps or time, there is, a unifying element to see that, hey, everybody comes together, dust each other off like it's over, let's get back to work.
Morgan, man, year 2 under Coach Raheem Morris. Last year did not go as planned. Things changed up a little bit. Now you have my guy from UW, Michael Penix Jr., out there at the QB position. They went ahead and gave you some help in the defensive end room, so you guys are loaded to go get after the pass rush. Why are you guys going to get to the postseason this year? This is your pitch to the fans as to why you guys are going to do so well this year.
Man, I'm not a big prediction guy, but just from the stuff I've been around, just getting here this year, what's really cool to see is the details and the focus from top to bottom, from staff to players, from everybody in the building. The focus is on winning games and being the best we can be every play. You see that the quarterback position, you see it, through the whole offense, and then on defense, with the amount of young guys we have, just everybody being so locked in and together and being welcome into each other, but then, holding each other to a standard. I think that's a big thing is, we have a standard of operation. We have a standard of playing, and you have a mark of a good team when everybody's holding each other to it.
You know what, Morgan, you're 10 years in, and part of a good team is having good people. You do so many things off the field, and we see the logo off your shoulder right now as part of the NFL Salute to Service program. You have this bond with the Wounded Warrior Project for something called Project Odyssey, the Project Odyssey Initiative. Tell us what that is. Tell us all about it.
So the Project Odyssey, it's a 12-week program for veterans, first responders, people post 9/11 who served in combat or, in various fields that come back with PTSD, some kind of mental disorder or mental health issue. And it kicks off with like a 5-day like nature retreat almost. You're outside, you're doing stuff, and it brings a bunch of strangers together, and then it teaches everyone that there's coping mechanisms and that you're not the only one going through what you're going through. At the end of the day, you might meet someone that is going through the exact same mental health problem. Learning to bounce those issues off of each other, learning to be vulnerable, learning to talk, learning to breathe, and then hopefully these lessons lead to a lifetime of change. And at the end of the day, ultimately learn how to hopefully save a life and or help you cope going forward and equip you with the tools that when you do fall into that hole, you can climb out of it.
Morgan, oftentimes when players engage in initiatives like this, the people at the weekend or the experience, perhaps, they want to know so much about you, but maybe when you walk away, you wanted to learn something from them. Did you take away anything from being around these veterans that were at Project Odyssey initiative?
Yeah, I took a lot from them. At the end of the day, I grew up in a military family, so a lot of these service members, these are the people I idolized growing up. These are the toughest of the tough, the baddest of the bad, and being able to watch them come in and be vulnerable is something that I took from it. Football and the military share a lot of similarities, especially in the fact that we move through our life like being told, from the time you're a kid, just be tough, handle it, don't worry about asking questions, suck it up, deal with it, you'll be fine. And then watching veterans who have been told the same thing, being in the military, and then watching them learn to talk and unload it and be vulnerable and share this space with others so that they can gain better bearings on their mental health is something that I took from them a lot, is watching these people that I idolize as the toughest start doing things they needed to do for their mental health.
It's important, the fact that you're even just saying this out loud on national television, Morgan. So the more people hear this lesson and see footage like that, everything that Project Odyssey has going on, it's fantastic work. We appreciate you so much. Morgan Fox, everybody. And his Wounded Warrior Project work is fantastic. Well done, Morgan.
Great stuff, bro.
Appreciate y'all. Thanks for everything.
Stay healthy. We'll see you soon.